Hi, I'm Kat. Welcome back to my channel, Catadactyl. So, as everyone knows, Game of Thrones just wrapped up, and the next episodes won't be coming out for at least, they said, a year to a year and 4 months, so there might not be any more Game of Thrones until 2019. So, after the final episode, I went on BookTube to see if I could find a Game of Thrones book tag that has already been done, and there is. It was made by Claire Rousseau. I will leave her original video down below. And I'm kind of using it as a way to put off the inevitable withdrawal symptoms of Game of Thrones. So don't worry that I'm going to say a lot of spoilers if you haven't caught up to the current end of Game of Thrones. This is mostly about books or characters that I would link up to certain elements of certain characters and events in the Game of Thrones world. So there won't be any spoilers, you don't have to worry about that. And without further ado, let's go on and get on into it. Question number 1 is Arya, a character that is all about revenge. So for me, this is Achilles from Song of Achilles. If you have read the Iliad, I feel like this is not a huge spoiler, so I'm gonna say it. In the end of the book, his very good friend is killed, and it drives Achilles out of his mind with grief and loss. So then Achilles becomes absolutely bent on revenge, and it's kind of the turning point in his view on war. Before then, especially in this book, Achilles didn't necessarily want to fight other than for glory. He didn't really have a purpose. He didn't really have a specific aim to kill anyone in particular. I really liked it to really feel like Achilles is deep mourning for his friend. It's kind of unfortunate that it manifests itself in him wanting to slay another person, but that is definitely who I'm going to pick for linking up with Arya. So Achilles from the Iliad, or Achilles from the Song of Achilles. If you haven't read this book, it's amazing, so go read it. So question number 2 is all about Varys, a book that has to do with political intrigue. So actually, politics is one of my hugest weaknesses. I don't really like when a book has a lot of politics because I feel like just in daily life I'm inundated with political statements everywhere. So it's not something I really love to read. So something else has to be amazing for me to read a heavily political book. But for me, it is The Traitor by Cormorant by Seth Dickinson. I just love that book. It is so amazing. You follow the main character, whose name is Baru Cormorant. When she is a child, her island nation is colonized through economics by the Empire of Masks. Ever since then, she decides she is going to become an accountant and make herself useful to the Empire and rise within their ranks and kind of manipulate the political situation via economics, which I just found so intriguing. I also thought about using Baru Cormorant for the first question for the revenge character, but then I realized that this is one of the only political type books that I have read, so it is perfect for number 2. Okay, so question number 3 is Joffrey, a villain you love to hate. And the thing about Joffrey is that I don't love to hate him, I just hate him. So I'm gonna try to more stick to the parameters love to hate than about Joffrey, because I just hate Joffrey. I hate him. So a villain that I love to hate, like I recognize that they are a terrible, terrible human being, is Jacob from As Meat Loves Salt by Mariah McCann. And As Meat Loves Salt takes place during the Civil Wars in France. The book starts out and Jacob has just murdered someone. And it's not for like a super important reason, it's just kind of like he felt like it, and also they were making fun of him, so he just kind of kills them. And yeah, the tone is pretty much set from there. Jacob is kind of a sociopath, psychopath, and it's really interesting being in his mind and reading the book, because as events happen, you know he's a terrible person. Like in the very beginning, you are told that he is a terrible person because he murders someone. He murders a boy, a little boy. So the whole book, you know he is just trash, but because you're viewing it from his mind, it's easy to fall into the trap of like seeing how he rationalizes things. So I loved to follow him throughout the book. It was like watching a train wreck. I just couldn't look away. And I'm not saying he's a good person, but he's also my favorite villain that I've read in a long time. So that's who I would say for Joffrey. Jacob. Jacob for Joffrey. Yep. Okay, so number 4 is Jon Snow, a coming-of-age story. So for Jon Snow, I'm going to pick Wavy from All the Ugly and Wonderful Things by Bryn Greenwood. It is an amazing book, okay? It starts out and Wavy is a young girl and her parents are running a drug commune and her situation is very bad. Her home life is extremely poor. She slowly grows up throughout the novel, aided by a very unlikely character named Kellen. He is kind of a thug in her father's drug gang, but he himself doesn't do drugs, and he is said to be maybe a little slow, but he absolutely cares so much for Wavy, and he really helps her grow up. He helps her do her homework, get groceries, take her to school, also takes care of her little brother, and as they grow up, just the way that Wavy changes and the way she gets so strong and the things that she has to deal with, it's just such a good coming-of-age story. A lot of times those circumstances can be written as titillation, and also the age gap between the love interests, Wavy and Kellen, is quite far, so when she's young and he's taking care of her, they're not necessarily romantic, and then the feelings kind of get like hazy and change over time. And so I just think the way everything was written, it just made it such an amazing coming-of-age story. And I highly, highly, highly recommend it. So number 5 cracks me up. It is Jaime and Cersei. It is a ship that you cannot get behind. And for me, surprisingly, it happened in History Is All You Left Me by Adam Silvera. Most of the book, you are hearing about 3 people. Griffin, who has lost his boyfriend to a drowning accident. Theo, who was his ex-boyfriend and his ex-best friend. And Theo's new boyfriend. My heart was already kind of used up for all the balancing of the relationships of like hearing about his past with his boyfriend and then how it wasn't working out and how jealous he was of the new boyfriend, and also like what the new boyfriend is feeling and what his old boyfriend was feeling. So in the end, when Griffin and you know who kind of get together, I just feel like, I could see it kind of coming, but I didn't really want it to. I didn't have any more room for any other relationships. I just kind of wanted to grieve with Griffin about his boyfriend and about his friend he'd lost and about the changes he's going through. So I understand how it happened. There was a lot of breadcrumbing throughout the novel, but I just could not get behind it. I just think I was emotionally drained and I didn't have any more room in my heart for any more romance, any more feelings between anyone. I was like, everyone just needs to sit in their corner and be platonic for like 5 seconds, because this whole book is making me cry and I just can't take it anymore. Just no more, no more. Just platonic for everyone. Everyone platonic. Okay, so number 6 is Lady Olenna, an older character that's totally kick-ass. And I had to think about this for a while, and there were a few options, but I'm gonna say Hans Hubermann from The Book Thief. So if you don't know, Hans Hubermann is the main character's foster father, and he teaches her to read, and he is largely the comfort for her throughout all the events that are happening. And for instance, when they hide someone in their basement, he paints over the wall so that they can draw on it and she can learn to read and write on it. And he was just like an absolute best dad ever figure. And I just felt like he was such an amazing character, and also just like, oh, dadding so hard, that I just loved him. I just loved him so much. I think a lot of the things he did weren't necessarily kick-ass in the sense that he was out kicking ass, but more in the sense that like he kicked the ass of what was happening at the time. He kicked the ass of the depression and the horrible things that were happening that could have turned itself on his daughter. So I really think that, you know, he was just an awesome father and an awesome character, and I love him so much. I love him. Oh, Hans. Number 7 is a book featuring dragons. The character is, of course, Dany. So, a book featuring dragons, I had to look back. I don't even have that many books with dragons. Or if I do, I'm bitter about them because they're not good, so I didn't want to mention them. So I'm taking this all the way back to a book I read in high school around the same era as Twilight. I just need to preface it because, you know those books that you don't want to reread because you don't want to kick them out of your life forever? This is going to be one of those books. At the time, it was one of my favorite books of all time. When I read it, I was like, mind blown. And I read it a bunch of times during that time. And a lot of the things that happen in the book are amazing, but a lot of the things that happen in the book I think would be problematic if I reread it now. So I'm deliberately not rereading it because I don't want to kick it out of my life forever, because it is awesome. So without further ado, it is The Smoke Thief by Shanna Abbey. Okay, so the reason it's so amazing is because there is a jewel thief and there is a person hunting the jewel thief. The jewel thief is a woman named Clarissa. She is the most wanted jewel thief in all the land because she can sneak into places where other people aren't, steal the jewels, and vanish. Okay? But when the news of how she is stealing the jewels gets out, someone realizes that she must be a Drakon, which is a dragon that can shapeshift into smoke into human. So there's like 3 levels. There's human, smoke, Drakon, which is basically dragon, just with the G made a K. So the leader of the dragon clan, Kit, goes to search for her. And so it's basically a cat and mouse game between Kit and Clarissa. And it is just amazing. I think that if you're looking for a read that has a really good chase and a really good like antagonism between the love interests, and also a woman who is really strong in her own right, I think it is an amazing book. However, I will just say that I think I haven't read it for a reason, and I think that it is because there might be a little bit of some problems. So if you're going to read it, just keep that in mind. But overall, I have very fond memories of the dragons. Okay, so number 8 is Sansa, a character you grew to love over time. So for me, I just could not choose between 2 characters. So the first character is Teeth from Teeth by Hannah Moskowitz. Teeth is a misunderstood being who is a hybrid of a fish and a human. And when I first met Teeth in the book, I thought that maybe I wouldn't like him, or maybe that he was going to be different than he was. But he just, what was happening to him and how he acted and how he didn't abandon the other fish and how he felt guilty, so then he was letting himself be hurt, and just, I have so many feelings for Teeth. I love him so much. I love him so much, and oh my gosh, if you haven't read this book and you like kind of fairy tales, kind of set in every day, that are kind of a more grim take, it's definitely not like a fairy tale in the light and airy sense, it's more a fairy tale like dark, grim sense, then I so recommend this book. So the other character that I grew to love, and I just couldn't decide between Teeth and them, is Borne from Jeff Vandermeer's Borne. So Borne is actually not a person per se. He is a purple fluff that is found by a scavenger on a giant flying bear, and over time he morphs and changes, and I don't want to say too much because the book is very new, so I don't want to give anything away, but following Borne from basically when he's a child, like a little fluff, and then he grows up to be something else, and just the way that he learned how to be a human and what is a person just broke my heart into a million little pieces, and I just read it a week ago, so it is so fresh in my mind, and I just want to like cuddle Borne. I just want to teach him all the things. I want to read to him. So also, if you haven't read Borne, I really recommend it. It is amazing, and I just love the cover. Number 9 is Melisandre, Your Favorite Magic System. So I had a really big think about this one. So for this, I'm going to choose Howl's Moving Castle by Diana Wynne Jones. And actually, if you haven't read the book, it is really, really good. It is different from the movie, but I find both formats are quite excellent, and I try to view them as just separate pieces of art. So in the book, of course, there is a curse that is put on Sophie, and you see the Witch of the Wastes magic as well as Howl's magic, and kind of the magic also of Calcifer and of souls. And I just really love that. It's kind of similar to me, like kind of the Wizard of Oz, where there is magic, but most of the plot isn't revolving around it. A lot of YA these days is all about magic, and it's on every page. Sometimes I really like it when there can just be kind of a normal plot that has like a curse, or like a normal plot where like there's just some everyday magic that happens. So yeah, I love this book so much. So the last tag is number 10, Tyrion, a character who uses their mind. And for this, absolutely is my number 1 bae, Laurent, from Captive Prince trilogy. So actually, this is my favorite book of the trilogy, which is Prince's Gambit, and it is signed by Piquet herself. And I just love Laurent so much. If you don't know, Captive Prince is a world where the different regions, the different countries in the world are kind of fighting each other, and Laurent is a displaced prince that is kind of stuck between things that are happening in different kingdoms, and he is just really cerebral, and he is always thinking like 10 steps ahead. So when you view one of his actions, you might think it's rash, or you might think, wow, he's a total asshole, but later you realize that he has been a million steps ahead of everyone the whole time. And sometimes this gets him in trouble. He can't exactly weigh like emotional circumstances so well, but I just love the way he thinks, and I love his mind, and I absolutely think that he and Tyrion would be like BFFs. I mean, I would personally love to be at that dinner table, and yeah, so I feel like I ended on a super good note. It can't get any better than the Captive Prince trilogy, so I'm just gonna leave it there. Please let me know what you thought of my picks. If you disagree with me, then please let me know, or if you agree with me, let me know. And if you are also, really sad about the fact that Game of Thrones is gonna go away for a little bit, then please do this tag. I didn't know who to tag, so I'm just gonna say, if you're seeing this, then please consider yourself tagged, and leave your video down below. I would love to see it. Yeah, so without further ado, I hope that you have an awesome day, and happy reading!